Hello. Okay, so this practice today is going to be a short upper body strength and core strengthening practice, working toward going upside down if you so desire. The going upside down, the headstand, or some kind of inversion will happen right at the end of class. So anyone can do this practice. We're just working up. I've had some requests for working on headstand. So that's what this practice will be for. So it's going to be short. The only prop that would be useful is some wall space. So I have wall space here without any pictures or anything on it. You could even use the back of a door, like a shut door, if you don't have readily available wall space that doesn't have any furniture or pictures on it. Okay, so we're just going to center on our hands and knees, just getting into our breath and some movement there. And just start by letting your head hang and just kind of rocking your neck from side to side. So my boys used to have this blue skin suit, and it, like, they would put it on, it was their whole body, so even their face. It was just the spandex skin suit. So I kind of want you to think of that's what you're wearing, and you're just kind of easing into expanding and stretching into every part of that skin suit. So we're just starting on the neck, and you can start to let your shoulders kind of move a little bit as you let your head sway from side to side. And then maybe even let your spine turn into a little bit of a C shape. And just kind of think of pushing into all the little nooks and crannies as you stretch here. And you can start to let your movements get bigger, maybe find full circles with your head. You can let your pelvis get into that with circles. And just push out, let your shoulders, elbows, wrists, everything kind of get into your movement, and just move through your spine, your neck, your head in a really intuitive way. Just kind of feel like you're expanding and pushing out into all the edges of that skin suit fabric covering your whole body. And then see if you can ease yourself into some circles. And just stirring your body in circles. And you can keep that intuitive movement through your spine as you move in a circle here. Start to get into your wrists a little more. Play with the weight distribution in your hands. You can switch directions. And then just find yourself in center, and we'll do some shoulder rotations. Since my left arm's closest to you, I'm just going to start with my left arm. I want you to keep your lower ribs contained, okay? Contain your belly, and not a rigid way, but just supporting your spine. And reach your left arm forward, palm face up. And then lead with your thumb. See if you can find the big circle. You'll have to internally rotate that arm, and then find shoulder flexion here. Palm is now facing like toward your head. Lift that arm up as high as you can, and then let it come down by your hip. And then lift up. Find that rotation and reach back forward. Try to keep your rib cage as level as you can. You're just kind of playing with your rotation range of motion in that shoulder. And push into your right grounded hand. Really find flexion. So my palms facing the direction of my head. And then you can rotate around. When your arm gets forward, just bend through your elbow, let your hand hover behind your shoulder blades. And then lengthen out. Find that rotation. And then bend your elbow, let the back of your hand hover over your lower back. And do that a couple of times. Swimming forward. Bend your elbow and let your hand hover. Reach out, swim around, bend your elbow, let your hand hover. And then reach that out and bring your hands down and just push back and forth into kind of a dynamic child's pose. And then come back up to your hands and knees and shake that right wrist out. We'll do the same shoulder work on the other side. So palm face up, reach your right arm forward. And then you'll internally rotate that arm as you reach back and find shoulder flexion as much as you can. So that palm is facing up and you're reaching. And then find your shoulder rotation. Swim that arm back around, palm face up. And just move through there. So here we've got some shoulder extension. Internally rotate, reach back, and then shoulder flexion. You can let it come down by your hip. Find yourself in flexion. Rotate through that shoulder. Forward extension. Do one more time like that. And just keep breathing. Swim your way back forward. Palm face up, then bend your elbow, let your hand hover above your shoulder blades. And then reach forward, swim back around. Palm face up, bend your elbow, let the back of your hand hover over your lower back. And do that a couple more times. And then back. Last round there, reach forward. And swim around back, bend that elbow to hover. And release your arms. And then that push back and forward into child's pose. And you can kind of let your wrists get into it more this time, flexing your wrists as you come back, lifting your palms as you come up. And then we're going to find some scapular movement here. So come back onto your hands and knees and your tabletop and just let your heart drop. So your lower back is staying stable. Just letting your heart drop and your shoulder blades come toward each other. So retract your shoulder blades and then push your palms into the floor. Protract your shoulder blades spread apart. And you're just letting your shoulder blades slide on your back. Retract, protract. And if it's really hard to find this movement, it may be helpful to ask someone in your family just to come touch that place between your shoulder blades. And you can think about squeezing with your shoulder blades and then pushing apart. And then let's see if maybe we can find some circles. So find that retraction, shoulder blades together, and then elevate towards your ears. And then push the floor away, spread your shoulder blades wide, and then depress your shoulder blades down towards your hips, and then let them come together. And just keep moving there with those circles. See if you can keep your elbows straight. You don't need to lock them out, but. And then switch directions. See if you can draw them together and then depress, then pull apart and elevate. Just let your brain practice that. And then pause. Just up your right foot outside of your right hand. You can knee, toe that left leg back and just find a little bit of movement here. Let it be intuitive. You can think about that stretchy bodysuit again and just kind of move into the edges of it. Feel like you're stretching the fabric out. You can bend and straighten that right leg. You can have hands on a chair or blocks here if that's helpful. You can walk your hands back as much as you need to. You could pad your back knee with a blanket. We just want to find a little bit of acquaintance with those hips and hamstrings. And then just go back to your table and just simply switch sides. Left leg forward. You can find little circles with your hips. You can let your spine get into it. And play with the weight in your hands. Just kind of greeting your body here. Straighten and bend that left leg. I've been home from my trip for a couple of weeks driving cross country, but my hamstrings flexibility has not recovered from so much sitting in the car and driving. It's crazy. All right. Let's find a little more movement there. And then we'll make our way to our back. So you can just come back to your table, cross your ankles behind you, bring your bum to the floor, and just scoot yourself to the middle of your mat and make your way down to the floor. We have 3 movements we're going to do here on our backs, and we'll go through them 3 times. So set up for a bridge. Feet are flat on the floor. Draw your shoulder blades together. Push into your heels to lift your hips. And let yourself feel stable here. And then bring your weight into your left foot and let your right foot hover. Now, the further you bring that leg up, the more of that weight you're bearing with your upper body and the less you're bearing with your glute and your hip. But we're just kind of working for the core, looking for the core work here. So you get to choose the challenge. The less that you float your foot up off the floor here, the more work it'll be. But we're just going to go back and forth. And trying to keep your pelvis level. You could even bring your fingertips to your ASIS, your points here, the front of your hips. And finding that stability in your back. Try to keep your hips lifted. Let's go back and forth one more time. Lift your right foot, lift your left foot, and then come on down. Hug your knees into your chest. And then bring your arms out to a T. Just going to drop our knees over to the right. And then bring your knees into your chest. And then really lift your sacrum up off the floor. Find some compression there. And then let your knees hover over to the left. Come back to center and really find some compression of your knees into your chest. You're lifting your pelvis up off the floor. And you can let it go down, hover to the right. And come up. And use those lower belly muscles to lift your pelvis off the floor. The side, and then to the center, and the other side, and center. Just go back and forth. It's our last one. The left and the center. And then release your arms off the floor and just reach them forward. We'll go for a hollow body hold here. So our first option is just to find kind of a tabletop position with your legs while you're laying here. Push your lower back down into the floor, lift your head and chest, but really think of being a continuous line. You're not crunching your chin in towards your neck. So float your shoulder blades up off the floor, and you can stay here, or maybe you can make the lever of your legs a little longer, or maybe even a little longer. And the lower your legs are, the more challenging it will be, pushing your lower back into the floor. Breathing 360 degrees around your rib cage. And then release. You can hug your knees into your chest, rock from side to side. We'll go through those again. Feet to the floor. Lift your hips and just walk back and forth. Right, left. And just keep going. Keep your hips the same height. Last time, right, left, and then lower yourself down. Bring your knees into your chest. And we'll add one more little option here to this move if you want. So you can do what we did before, just knees into your chest, lift your hips, drop your knees over to the side to hover, and then back to center. Lift your pelvis up off the floor, and then drop your knees over to the other side. Or you can find that lift pelvis, drop your knees to the side, and then you can bring your legs towards straight to bring you back to center. Heels hover, and then bring your knees into your chest to lift your hips. And let your knees go to the side. And then bring them towards straight. Let that straighten you out. Lower back to the floor. Knees into your chest. Okay. So you're kind of drawing these big circles with your legs. As you move with that lower body core. And then go ahead and release that effort. Lift your shoulder blades off the floor. No extra tension in your neck. It's just an extension of your spine. Legs in tabletop. Legs a little further forward. Legs towards straight. Lower back is pushing to the floor. Okay, so you've got this hollow body here. You can bring your lever a little higher, find a bend in your knees if it just gets to be too much. And then release. We'll do those all one more time. Makes me scoot down my mat. Those, the twisty ones. Okay. Feet on the floor. And then just march your feet from side to side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then go ahead, lower yourself down, knees into your chest. You can just rock from side to side with that lift of your sacrum in the center, or you can do those swimming legs, straightening. So rock that pelvis up and then bring it down. Rock your knees to your right. You can just come back to center, or you can bring your legs towards straight and then come into the center. Knees to the left. You can rock back or let your knees go straight and come back up. We're at 7, 8, 9, 10. You get a lot of travel out of that. So you might do. Okay, lift those shoulder blades up off the floor. Find that place, really push your lower back into the floor. And then you can feel like you're spreading your belly out as you engage. Breathe through the whole circumference of your rib cage and find the height of your legs for your hold. Breathe in and out of your nose. And then release. Oh. Roll to one side or just cross your ankles and roll up. Actually, one more thing I want to do when we're laying down, sorry, lay back down. We're going to stretch our hamstrings while we're here. So lengthen your right leg up and just find some length through the back of that leg. Find the natural curves of your spine here. So back of your pelvis, the back of your rib cage, the back of your head are on the floor, but you've got just a natural space under your neck and your lumbar. Good. Lengthen through that left leg. Maybe walk your hands up your leg, maybe reach for your foot. If you can maintain the natural curves of your spine. And then switch sides. So left leg long. So we're working on just finding integrity and strength through the central plane, like the deepest part of our body, closest to our bones, so that we can find support and integrity no matter what orientation we are in. We also need some length and openness. And all right, now we'll come back up to hands and knees. So you can just roll over onto your side or roll forward. And we'll start with a heart opening, shoulder opening pose here. So hips stay over your knees. Reach your arms forward and drop your heart toward the floor in a puppy pose. Your forehead might come to the floor, or you could bring your chin to the floor. So open into the fronts of your shoulders. And just take one more round of breath there. And then rock forward. So you come onto your forearms and you can interlace your fingers here. Elbows are about shoulders distance apart. Tuck your toes and lift your hips. Here in a dolphin pose. Just kind of calibrate yourself here. And pushing into your outer wrists. Find some length through your outer armpits. And then just rock your chin forward and push it back. Push your hands away. Rock your chin towards your fists and push back. And 3, 4, 5, 6. You can come down and rest whenever you feel like it's too much. We're working toward 10, 8, 9, 10. And then bring your knees down and come to a kneeling seat. If you want to interlace your fingers behind you, open your heart, you can. And then plant your hands, tuck your toes. Now you may want your hands on blocks if you know that a standing forward fold, it's hard for you to touch the floor. But this is actually a core work exercise that we're going to do here, really thinking about this compression, our ability to compress our thighs towards our belly. So toes tucked, and then push into your hands. You're going to push the floor away to lift your hips up and come onto your tippy toes and find a forward fold, and then come back down. I'm just going to do 5. 3, 4, 5. All right. Walk your hands forward. Find a quadruped table pose. Tuck your toes and then just float your knees up off the floor. So your knees are just hovering off the floor. And breathe through your nose. Knees down. And then find your puppy pose again. So hips stay stacked over your knees. Drop your heart to the floor. Just open through your shoulders, forehead or chin to the floor. Ground through your elbows. You can bring your hands in a prayer. And then bend your elbows. Bring your prayer hands behind your head. And stretch through your triceps and shoulders. And then release your hands. We'll make your way to your dolphin pose. So elbows are shoulder distance apart. And tuck your toes. Lift your hips, kind of tiptoe in. So you're in a pretty strong V shape here. And you can just hold still to increase your shoulder strength here. And remember that scapular movement we found earlier. Really push into the floor and let your shoulder blades protract. So feel like they're spreading apart on your back. Maybe you're ready for 10 more of those dolphin push-ups. Chin toward your fists and then push back. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Knees to the floor. Walk your hands back. Maybe interlace and stretch out. And then plant your hands, tuck your toes, and push up into that tiptoe uttanasana 5 times. 1. So you're really thinking of using that belly to lift you up. 3, 4, 5. Nice. Walk your hands forward. And then find that little beast. Hover your knees. Breathe in and out of your nose. And then lift your knees, lift your hips, and find a downward facing dog. Just enjoy this for a breath or 2. And then inhale to lift your right leg up and back. And then step your right foot forward between your hands. And we'll come up into a high lunge. Reach your arms high. And then bend your left elbow. Just find a tricep stretch by grabbing that right elbow, that right hand around your left elbow. And then let yourself open into warrior 2. So ground through that left heel. Open your arms wide. And then bring the back of your left hand to your right lower back. And then inhale, reach. Right arm up and over. And then exhale into a side angle pose with this half bind. Got a microphone battery pack in my way, but you could reach those left fingers toward your right inner thigh. Just kind of lift your chin, your heart. Right, and we do the work to travel to fun inversions like a headstand. You undo your arm and reach up. Because it's fun, right? Because it's fun to do something we didn't think we could do. Go ahead and step back to your downward facing dog. And it's part of that living playfully and living from our joy. Lift your left leg up. And then step that left foot forward. Come on up to your high lunge. Reach your right arm up. And bend that right elbow. And just find a nice tricep stretch here. Push into that right big toe ball mound and let your front low ribs kind of just soften down. And then ground your right heel, open up into that warrior 2. And then you can bring your right hand to your left low back. Reverse your warrior here. And then left forearm to left thigh. Just half bound, side angle pose. Right, and that's part of the whole purpose of more advanced postures is just to find the delight and progression and moving on to something new and finding new orientations. Go ahead and unwind that. Reach high. Cartwheel down. Find your downward facing dog. And then bring your knees to the floor. Sit back on your heels, and I just want you to take a hand, just bring the palm of your hand between your eyebrows, just right to your brow bone, and then reach back and feel where your middle finger touches your head. That's about the place where you want to be on the floor when you're in a headstand. And when we're in headstand, we're not actually putting much weight at all on our head. It's mostly in our upper body. Okay. So I just want you to experiment with that here. Interlace your fingers behind your head and just kind of cradle your head. Okay. And then notice your ability to use that scapular movement to pull your upper arm bones down into the shoulder socket. So you're protracting and depressing your shoulder blades so that you've got a lot of space for your neck here. Okay. And go ahead and release. Bring your hands either side of your knees and bring your forehead to the floor. We'll just do a few rocks into rabbit pose. Push into your shins and just rock onto the crown of your head and just find that place you found with your finger and then lower down. Let's do that 2 more times. And then go ahead and come on up. Now I'm going to slide my mat closer to the wall for a headstand, just to kind of show you how you might use the wall. And just let it be there, not to prop you up, but just to give you a little confidence that you're not going to fall. Okay. Now, I do not like to hold headstand for a very long time because it's too much compression on my neck. I prefer to work on Pincha Mayurasana with my head off the floor, forearms on the floor, head off the floor. And that's just what feels good for me and my body. So I'll just do 1 round of headstand and kind of talk you through it. Okay, you've got to listen to your body. And we're coming upside down. And I want you to remember all of that core work, especially that lower belly core work we did and the compression of your thighs into your belly, because that's what's going to help you get up and find some balance, and then you can lengthen your legs. So I'll show you what I mean. So you're going to bring your forearms to the floor and interlace your fingers like we did for dolphin pose, and your elbows are shoulder distance apart. And then bring that space, that little space of your crown of your head to the floor and interlace your fingers. Okay. Push your outer wrists into the floor. And really, I want you to think like 80% of your weight is in your arms, maybe even more, maybe even 85. And 15 or 20% of the weight will be in your head. Okay. And this might be just where you stay, just to kind of experiment with finding the weight distribution between your head and your arms. Like if you're really pushing your arms into the floor, you can feel that protraction of your shoulder blades and the length in your neck. Okay, you got length through your neck and your shoulder blades are wide and kind of moving down your back. And then maybe tuck your toes and lift your hips. And then you can tiptoe your feet in till your hips kind of stack over your shoulders. And then just play with bringing one knee into your chest and then the other. Okay. And just finding that compression through your core. And then take a break. Okay. And so just remember that feeling of really drawing in from your belly. It's going to be your belly that lifts you up. Okay. You can try that again. Bring your head to the floor. Tuck your toes. Walk in. You can bring a knee into your chest and then maybe try to bring the other knee in. You can balance there. As you're ready, push up. But you're pushing from your belly and you're pushing into your forearms. And my feet are active. Squeezing in toward the midline. And then as you're ready, come down with control and rest in child's pose. And so you've got the wall behind you, and you can do it closer to the wall than I did here. It's there just in case you fall, right? And if you fall, tuck your chin so you can roll. But you want to be able to do all of those dolphin push-ups before you attempt to go upside down, okay? All right. So if you want to try that a few more times, you can. You can fast forward through that part and just do legs up the wall instead for your inversion. Right? This is a great way to get to reverse gravity on your body. After your headstands, just rest in child's pose. Forehead to the floor, hands back by your feet. You can rock your forehead from side to side. And then roll yourself up. Just reach your right arm down and then drop your left ear to your left shoulder. And then dial your chin toward your shoulder. You can find a little bit of a nod. And then chin down, head back up to center. Just reach down with your left arm. And drop your right ear to your right shoulder. And then chin to shoulder. You can find little nods. And then chin to chest. And come on up. Go ahead and find either a comfortable cross-legged seat, or you can lay down on your back for Shavasana. And just close your eyes. And feel your breath. That sense of fun and delight from changing your perspective. Whether or not you went upside down today, built strength and capacity. And that added strength and capacity just gives you more opportunity to experience and interact with your life in a joyful way. So I hope that practice was fun for you. The divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Namaste.